Welcome to Practice Talk, a deep dive into the world of healthcare practices, where we invite team members to share strategies to make your work life easier. Now your host, Laci Ellis.
Welcome to Practice Talk, brought to you by People in Practice, where we specialize in digital marketing, website development, SEO, and so much more. I'm so excited for today's topic, discussing insights from a clinical supervisor, with my guest, Janella. Janella began her orthodontic career about 17 years ago as a chairside assistant. And since then, she's pretty much worked every position in the office, including training at the front desk and even spending time as a treatment coordinator. She truly has a great passion for orthodontics and her patients. Janella is originally from Texas. However, she is now working and living in beautiful Las Vegas with her soulmate and furry companion, Lacie. Welcome, Janella.
Hi.
Thank you so much for being here.
Yeah, I'm so excited.
Wonderful. So just as a quick reminder to our listeners, don't worry about taking any notes today. We will put together a printable that you will be able to download for free from our website, filled with the details from today's discussion. So Janella, I'm really excited to dig into the ins and outs of your practice and how things work. And I would love for you to kind of walk us through an overview of how your clinic functions day to day, starting with how do you welcome a patient back to an appointment, and then walk me through that process.
Yeah. My favorite thing is that obviously adjustments and patients that are already in treatment, we go up to them and we're like, hey, and we love to know everything about our patients. So whether it's sports or what they're into, so we'll always follow up with them. But my favorite thing that we do is that when we get new patient exams, we go and grab them and then we walk them through each step. So we have I'm from Webster Orthodontics in Las Vegas. So we have a Webster cabinet of all the prices. So if you get Webster wages, which is kind of free money that you could use at our office. We have gift cards and all these bottles and just everything that people could use in life. It's so fun. So when we have new patient exams, we walk them through each step and tell them this is our front desk, and we introduce them to everyone who's at the front desk. We introduce them to the Webster cabinet of what they can buy. We introduce them to the back and show them where the magic happens. And Dr. Webster and all the staff always says welcome guys. We just want all our patients to feel so welcome. So it's just my favorite part of how we welcome patients. It's the new patient exams, because we want them to feel so comfortable.
I love that. I know the practice that I worked in the longest, whether it was a new patient or an existing patient, the assistant that was going to work on them was the one that went up to the front desk and, greeted them and said kind of started the how's it going, and then brought them back to kind of start their appointment. And then at the end, we would always walk them back out. And typically for the kids, we would then give a report to mom and dad about this is what we did today. This is what we're on track with. I know since COVID, some of that maybe has changed a little. So when you just existing patient wise, when you greet somebody and they come back, can you kind of walk me through how that part of the process works, and how do you wrap up the appointment at your office?
Yeah. So I know it has changed, but I think we're back to normal, at least at our office. So we do walk our patients, all of my assistants walk their patients up to our checkout, whose name is Jackie. And so we'll say come and follow us. We're going to walk you up to Jackie. And then we tell them hey, Jackie's going to help you out and she'll make your next appointment. But all of the assistants need they all walk our patients up to checkout. They're not allowed to just be okay, bye, see you later, figure it out. No, we all walk our patients up and we physically, do the exit. And then if there's an update or whatever, we'll be okay, let's go talk to your mom or talk to your dad or who brought you today. And we'll just update them on anything that needs to be updated.
I love that. Okay, perfect. So what about emergencies? How does your team kind of handle the emergencies that come in? Especially, I know you guys have a very busy practice. I think, startup practices maybe don't have this to worry about as much because they don't have as many patients, but you guys are a very established practice. So how do you handle emergencies within a very busy schedule?
Yeah, we're very into the community. We always handle emergencies. So whether we're super busy and we don't have like a time slot for us to schedule them in, my rule for my clinic is or for the front, I should say, is if there's no slot available, you are to put them on the schedule, and then either I will handle it myself or my team is great. They will see it on the schedule and just handle it while they're waiting for Dr. Webster, or if they're just sitting there, and they just look at the schedule, they're like, okay, I'll go handle it. But we're all in communication. So it's all about communication for us at Webster Orthodontics for sure. But I will never turn away an emergency. That's not a rule in our office.
I love, so the thing that you said that like sparked in me that I'm like, I wish every office understood this is it's really about the communication, because I don't care how busy your clinic is or your front desk is. If you've got a patient who, whether it's a real emergency or they feel like it's an emergency, you want to take care of that person. There's clearly something that they perceive is going wrong. So you need to get them back and get that taken care of. So the practice I was in, again, for the longest, we had an overflow chair. And so and we all worked columns, but it was like, if an emergency was scheduled in the overflow chair, one of us would just hop over there the second we could. So sometimes the front desk would bring them back just so they weren't sitting out front, for a long, long time. But then one of us, we'd be like, we know there's emergency in the chair. When one of us can step away from our patient, we would go take care of the emergency. And then, just keep flowing through the day. So do you have like an overflow chair that isn't scheduled with patients that you stick those emergencies in, or do you try to fit them into a chair slot?
Preferably, I would like, we work columns too, so I would like them to be like with a certain assistant, but we do have we have 2 overflow chairs. One is used for records, and then the other one is our official overflow chair that we use for overflow and emergencies that happen out of nowhere. And so, yeah, we'll just stick them in there. And even if it's like because we do have columns with our names. So I kind of like, if I see an assistant that's just waiting for a doctor, I'll move the emergency to their column, and they already know, go get them, sit them in our overflow chair and take care of whatever needs to be taken care of.
Perfect. Okay. So we like to get questions or comments from our listeners and our people in practice clients about our topic. So let's listen to our first question.
We constantly seem to struggle with staying on top of our supplies and ordering. There has to be a better way. Could you give us some tips for this?
Yes. So I've done ordering for a very long time. I actually love ordering. I try to do ordering enough for every 3 months of the year. And so I've tried everything from like tags, where you tag everything and then the assistant knows like when they're at the end to put it in somewhere. I hated that. Now I just have like a big white board in sterilization. So when the assistant knows like we're low, they just write it on the board. And then we have admin days. So we work 3 patient days and then 2 admin days. So our admin days are to where we can catch up on paperwork and everything that we need to do. And then my admin day is for sure looking at the whiteboard and making sure we have everything in stock. That's what works best for me. I know everyone's different, but it just makes it easier when like the assistants can help me out, like telling me like, hey, we're low on this. So I'll go and I'll check in. I'm like, okay, yeah, we're really low. Like, let's get this reordered. So that's kind of what works best for me. I had to train my team to do that, and it was really easy. So, I mean, we just write it on the board and I'm like, got it, check.
That is exactly so. The practices I've worked in, that's exactly what we did, where we would just have a paper or somewhere that we all knew to go. And then one person was in charge of ordering. That's another thing. I feel like if you have 3 or 4 people ordering different things in different areas of the practice, that gets super confusing for everybody. So just like keep the amount of cooks in the kitchen kind of small and have that one person in charge. And then when it's up on that whiteboard or piece of paper, we would, the person who was doing the ordering, which I did it for a while too, which it's always fun, like getting some supplies for the practice and looking at what's new in the brochures. But then I could go back and look at backstock and make sure, did this team member just not know that we had some existing stock somewhere else? And then I could pull that out and just cross it off the list. So I think it's a really effective way to do it. And I'm glad to know that we were doing it efficiently then.
Yeah, it's the best way. It's so great. And just like having that help of the assistants knowing like how to help me out also, it's just great. It's so efficient for our office. So that's how we run it.
Perfect. So let's listen to our next question.
It feels like we stress about doctor time every single day, and we've tried a light system and even headsets, but nothing seems to work. Do you have a good strategy for this?
I do. So that is actually my job, is to direct my doctor. We have our own program that we could have like a light system. We've tried that and I personally do not like it. So it is my job to actually direct my doctor. It is also my job to do same day chair starts. So sometimes that could be a struggle because I'm focusing on my patient and I can't read the schedule or have time to do it while I'm focusing on my patient. So I do have my lead assistant. So when she knows that I have a patient, it's her job to now direct Dr. Webster. But we are starting to train all of our assistants to kind of read the schedule. I know a lot of people don't really know how to read a schedule or just don't want to know. But we have like certain people like in line, or at least I do, that like will take care of where to direct Dr. Webster when I'm busy.
So let's say he gets out of an exam and, your clinic is full and ready to go. So do you meet him at that door coming out of the exam and say, okay, this is where you're going first, and this is the next place I need you, and you just kind of direct him verbally to where to go?
Yeah. So we have an island, and we have 2 computers. So I work with one computer and he works with another one. To do like pin checks and Invisalign stuff. And then my main job is just to mainly direct them. So we're like side by side next to each other. And I'm like, you're going to chair 2 with so-and-so. And then I give them like a follow-up kind of, because the assistant will come and tell me like, this patient wasn't wearing their trays from Invisalign. Like, I don't like my doctor to be surprised. So they come to me and they'll give me the update, and then I'll let him know like, hey, this is what's going on. Don't be surprised or alarmed. Like, and you're going here, like, and I'll give him like the full update.
I love that. I don't know that I've worked in a practice where we had like that level of oversight in the clinic. And man, as an assistant, that would have been really, really helpful, because sometimes it was just like mass chaos. Like we were all fighting for doctor comes out of the exam and we're like, it's my turn, So
yeah.
It's nice to have somebody else directing.
I have a check and like all this. Yeah, it's super chaotic.
Yes.
I worked at an office where it was like that, and it was so chaotic. So I really love that system of where I'm like, okay, this is where you're gonna go. This is kind of just like directing him. You got to be the director. Someone has to be the director, and I don't trust a light system. It's just like, I will do it. I know where you go, but you need to also learn how to like read a schedule. So, not to hype myself up, but I'm perfect at that.
Well, I know I've even worked in practices where we did use the headset system, and the theory was great, like so much communication, but man, it was more mass chaos, it felt like, because then you had everybody in everybody's ear. And like, doctor was like, he just kept taking it out. He's like, I don't need 10 women at one time telling me what to do. So I think having that clinical supervisor in place where you can make sure, like, you will know then this patient's been in the chair for the longest and we need to get to that person, get them checked out and get the next person in their chair. So I think that system is probably the most efficient and effective. And it sounds like you've got it nailed down. So
no, yeah, it didn't take a while, but we also have like a preset schedule. So like templates are set in place. Sometimes that's not always followed. You know how it goes in like the orthodontic world where like you just got to get them in sooner or something's happening. So the template isn't always followed, but I think it's still great that I'm there to be a backup of that, where I'm like, okay, this is where you need to go if the schedule is not like templated how we want it to be that day. I could still show him and direct him where to go.
Perfect. So how do you ensure quality control and consistency with your patient care across your orthodontic team?
That is a good question. We have meetings every month. So we also are an office that does checklists. So like everyone has like opening duties or closing duties, or need to check this, need to check that. So that everyone has like a, not a leadership, but like a what's the word I'm looking for?
Like ownership?
Yeah, like ownership. Or like I could like check the checklist and be like, okay, you're the one that kind of did this, or you know what I mean? Like it was a mistake. So we do have a lot of checklists in our office, which is working so great because there's always a fallback, and I can always say like, okay, I know where this mistake was done. And so I can go and talk to the person individually. So it's honestly, checklists are great. I fully recommend checklists for anything. We have opening duties, closing duties. We have checklists for the front that they need to check. And then at the end of the week, we'll send them to our manager, and she'll kind of like go over it, and we'll also say like a summary of what happened that week, positive or negative. And then we have meetings every month for my clinical staff and for the front staff. And then we'll just kind of see like the issues that were happening that month, and then we'll kind of go over them. We don't technically call people out, but we'll just say like, hey, we found this issue, like this is how to like control it, or like fix the problem, or how to verbalize it better. It's a lot of verbalization that we kind of want to like enhance in the charting and stuff. So we do a lot of that, but we have monthly meetings so that we're all on the same page, front and the back. And I've been in practices where the front and the back are against each other, and it is the absolute worst. But our office, we work as a team, front and back, with communication. And so it's just, so when we have those monthly meetings, we'll have a front and clinical like meeting together, and then go over all of those issues, and then we'll separate, and then the front will have their own meeting, and then the clinical will have their own meeting. So it's all about, we do it monthly. I mean, I think anyone can do it like at any time, but we like to do it monthly just to keep it consistent. And I love to like enhance my assistants, like their knowledge in orthodontics. So I keep it monthly so that we're consistently all on the same page.
That's so great. So you hit on a couple things that really stuck out to me. One is that front and back office. contention when that exists. Even the patients feel it. It's so distracting to everybody. And what I've learned is it's the cross training, because if you understand how stressful it is to be up at the front desk dealing with the mom whose child is not allowed to miss school because they're the smartest kid on the planet and they just can't miss, there's you don't understand the pressure of that. And then you're trying to fit them in a schedule, in a template where they're not supposed to be in that spot, but you're like, I don't have a choice with this mom right now, and then in the back, when you see that, if you don't understand the pressures of being up front, you look at it and you're like, this front desk person's ruining my life, and so you're like, that's not how it's templated. We don't put people here. And then there's just this friction that comes, and it's really unnecessary, because if you've sat up front, you can't, there is no perfect way. You can't have a perfect schedule all the time, just because we're dealing with people and people are imperfect. And then it's good for the front to come into the back, because then they can understand, if you want me to deal with a patient who's popped a bracket and they're not, and you're putting them in a retie slot, there's no way that's going to happen. And now all of a sudden you're putting everybody else on my schedule behind for the whole rest of the day. Maybe I can make it up at lunch if I skip half of my lunch or whatever. But so I think cross training is super valuable. And then I think just that, what you were saying about the checklist and being able to really go back and hold people accountable to what they're doing and what they're responsible for. But I am curious. So let's say you have an assistant who is not strong in one specific area. They're really not strong in D-bands or scanning or something like that. How do you help them get to a better level so that you're not constantly putting it on the people who are good at it? We had somebody who was great at iTero scans, and so she just had to do them all the time, and it didn't help any of us get better at it. So I'm wondering if you have a little plan or solution for getting people up to speed with things that maybe they're struggling with.
Oh, for sure. So I like to talk to my assistants and be like, what do you need help on? And they'll tell me honestly, because we're kind of like an open book, and I really love our at Webster's, we're a family, all of us, front, back, we communicate, we don't get offended, we just all want to learn better, and it's great there. So when the assistants need to be better at a certain appointment, they'll tell me, they'll be like, I hate RPEs. And I'm like, great, you're getting all the RPEs, because that's how I learned. I was like, I hate doing this. And that's how I was trained. They were like, well, you're getting all of those patients until you love it. And I'm like, okay. So that's what I'll do. We're a tell, show, do office. So we'll tell them how to do it, show them how to do it, and then I'll show them, and then I will kind of oversee them while they do it, and I will not leave their site until they're comfortable doing it. Because I don't want my patient or the parent to be like, this assistant does not know what they're doing. I don't want that in my clinic. So we're really big on showing patients that we know what we're doing and we're confident in what we're doing. So yeah, all my assistants, if they have struggled with anything, they are to come to me and tell me they're uncomfortable with it, and I will make them comfortable with that appointment. Because I want everyone to know everything. I don't want any cherry picking, or which we have columns, so there's no really cherry picking, but I want everyone to be on the same playing field, the same level. So that's my goal. Not that we're already there, but if they have an issue with something, they're to come to me, and then we kind of train on it together.
That's great. Thank you. Thank you for sharing that insight, because I do think that's something I love the idea of great, you're struggling with this. Okay, let's work it until it's not a struggle anymore. Because back in the olden days when we fit bands on patients, I was really bad at fitting bands.
Those days. I hated those, the 7 bands.
Oh,
No.
my goodness. I was so bad at them. And honestly, when I was first training, I watched a team member, I was watching and observing, and I watched a team member. Don't worry, it wasn't Brandy because she did train me, but it was not her. I watched a team member accidentally drop a band down a patient's throat. And it was just it was so scary and so chaotic. And so I was terrified of fitting bands from there forward. And finally, the doctor was like, great. We're going to fit bands until you feel like I've got this. And honestly, then I became like, I could fit a band like that because we did it over and over and over and over. And then I just developed that skill. So I think it was partly good for me to be able to verbalize with somebody I trusted, like a team member, and be like, I really stress out every time this certain thing comes up, and then have them be like, great, how do we get past that struggle so that you don't feel like, we don't want to feel like that when we're at work, where you're struggling with this one thing all the time. Like that's so stressful for everybody.
Yeah, it's so dreadful. When you're like, you look at your column or the schedule or the next patient, you're like, I'm awful at this. Like we don't want that.
Exactly. Okay. Well, great. So my last question, with people in practice, because we're a marketing company, something that comes up often in our marketing meetings with our clients is that their clinical team doesn't really want to help with the marketing efforts. That seems to be something that we hear a lot, is like, we really struggle to get our clinical team to help with the marketing side of things. And so I'm curious, in your practice, how does the crossover for marketing work with the clinical team? Do they help with it? Is that a struggle? Maybe give us some insights about that.
Yeah, we've had a long time of struggling with that, but we just got into my manager, Jennifer. She's amazing. She grouped us of what we're best at. So obviously the younger people that are good at social media and TikTok and stuff. So now they take care of that part of the marketing section. And then the TC, and she broke up like people who are good at like with the dental deliveries. We also have Mona Lisa, who's our front desk person. She is actually retired, so she just does this for fun. But she was in the school, like CCSD, for a very long time. So Jennifer was like, okay, great. Your focus is on the schools, like marketing, because you know everyone at the schools. So we broke it up into like different groups of like what we knew each person was good at. So now we just kind of follow that like group, and it's been so great, especially for Jennifer, because she took care of that for the longest time. It was all on her shoulders. And so now that we've broken up in groups, it's been so great. And I'm sure it's been great for her too, because it was a lot for just one person to do. But now that we delegated, like who's best at what, and they're in those groups, it's been great. It's been so great.
I love the fact that you have like a team approach to marketing, because I do think in many offices, it's like either they have a marketing coordinator or they've got somebody, a scheduling coordinator who does the marketing too. And I know when I was chairside, they would tell us like, oh, we're going to do this thing and we want you to help promote it. And I'd be like, really? Do you know what my checklist looks like for every patient? I'm serious. It's like, I'm just trying to make sure that I did everything for the patient, and I don't really have time to promote this parent program to the parents that we want to put braces on them too, or, we can touch up their smile. But now that I'm on the other side of it, I'm like, man, if our clinical team doesn't talk about some of these things, or if they don't know what's going on, like it is hugely detrimental to the practice. Because let's say we're doing a giveaway and we've got a flyer at the front desk and the back team doesn't really understand what it's about. If the patient's like, hey, what's this thing that you're doing? And the back office is like, oh, ask the front. I don't really know. Like that's not helping sell it to the patient that this is, oh, we're doing this really cool thing where like if you refer patients to us, you get into this drawing for tickets to Disneyland, or you know what I mean? Like, so I think it's making sure that everybody on the team knows what our marketing goals and efforts are. And then the back team, like understanding that like I know you're busy, but some of this is important for you to help us out with. And I wish I would have cued into that a little bit better when I was chairside, because I did a very poor job at helping with the marketing when I was chairside. So I think it's really great that you guys kind of all have a role in it and know what your expectations are for it and can help push the marketing forward to the practice. That's great.
For sure. And like we do like a lot of promotions. So we'll do like posters all over the office of what we're doing. But like it's great for my assistants to know like what we're doing that month, because while we're walking them up to the front to check out, we have something to talk about. It's not awkward and we're just like, it's like all silent, So they all know like to promote the promotions and everything that we're doing. We do a Disneyland wristband challenge, and so that's always fun. That's what we're doing right now. But we kind of have something like every month just because it's fun. It's fun for us and it's fun for the patients. But it also gives like my assistants something to talk about while they're walking them up to check out.
Well, and even when you're chairside, I learned later, some of these marketing tricks, but I'm like, even chairside, there are times when you're sitting there waiting for a doctor and you've already talked about how's school, how's sports, how's your family, and you're like, cool, and this is awkward now. And so it's nice to have other things to be like, did you know that we're like giving this away and that we're doing this thing? Or my favorite thing that I learned later and got to implement down the road was when a parent was back there, we'd be like, if we were delivering a retainer, we'd be like, oh, so do you understand how retainers work? Do you have a retainer, Mom? And Mom's like, no, don't look at my teeth. I never wore my retainer. I wish I would have. And that was the perfect time to be like, oh, did you know that we offer special financing for parents of our patients? We can totally help you with that. Like just little things that made like, I'm just trying to help you, but also like keep conversation flowing and make it important, make those connections with people. So that's great. Perfect. So I really hope that you enjoyed our conversation today as much as I did. Thank you so much for your time and for sharing your valuable insights, Janella. It's been really, really great to have you here to chat.
Oh my gosh, I really loved it. And I love that you know like so much about ortho, because like we understood the conversation, but I hope that our talk could help like other offices. I would love to do that. I mean, your questions were so amazing and so great, because they are like important questions that people need to know about. So yeah,
exactly. Well, so our goal with this podcast is to truly give people, tangible items that they can use in their day-to-day life at an office, and to elevate the voices of the people who actually work in an office and sit in the same chair you sit in every day. It's not consultants and people who maybe have really great insights, but they're not like boots on the ground doing what you do. And so having somebody like you on here is just really valuable to us. So thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you so much. That's so sweet. Yeah, thank you. I really love the career, I guess, that I chose. But yeah, thank you so much.
Yes. So we would love to hear from you about topics or guest recommendations, as well as questions or comments about things that you are dealing with in your practice. Send us your anonymous questions and stories to practice-talk.com. Please subscribe and share this episode with your friends and family that might find these conversations helpful or interesting. And don't forget to listen to our original podcast called The Golden Age of Orthodontics, hosted by the founders of People in Practice, Dr. Leon Klempner and Amy Epstein. Until next time, thank you for joining us on Practice Talk, where your voice has value.
Thank you for listening to the Practice Talk podcast. Head over to practice-talk.com to ask us questions or tell us your stories. Until next time.